Welcome back to the Reboot Show. I'm your host, Luke Stowe. Today, we're joined by three expert cybersecurity leaders for the second segment of Trusted Impact's Cybersecurity Leadership Series. Our panelists will unpack how employees can be enabled to help perfect and protect the cybersecurity posture of your organisation. We will be discussing how to engage employees in cybersecurity awareness programs so they care before a crisis, the role of culture in achieving strategic cybersecurity objectives, the importance of reinforcement and consistency in training and awareness programs. And joining us today on this panel is Charlene Corrie, Research Analyst at Trusted Impact, Tim Barlow, the Director of Technology Innovation at St Leonard's College, and Jasmine Kraft, the Head of Security Awareness and Enablement at Bupa. Let's kick it off with you, Jasmine. It'd be great to hear your insights on the fundamental shift in thinking required by most executives as they strive to introduce and sustain safety with respect to cyber as the digital age value through their organisation.
It's quite a big question. So there's quite a few points that I would respond to that with. Initially, the thinking around security being something that technology owns and manages, and it's their responsibility, no longer applies. Security is certainly the responsibility of everyone in the organisation, and in particular, executives who now have got the power, the decision-making, and the ability to just go and purchase products and services without having to necessarily consult technology. That means that they now have got more accountability and consideration when it comes to security. But are they equipped to make the same kind of considerations that the technology and the security team may have done so before? So there's certainly a shift in the thinking and the skills and the considerations that executives and business leaders need to have. But also, in order to do that, I really believe that executives need to fully understand how security can play a part in their own strategy in delivering value for their business area. And it's only if they actually truly believe that security can provide that value and enable their business proposition will they want to incorporate that thinking and what's necessary to actually build security into those decisions. So that in itself, I think, is quite a big challenge because not many organizations have security as a mission statement or as a key sort of section of a strategy. It's always been a bit more of a compliance and a hygiene consideration. So there's quite a big shift to actually bring it to the forefront of strategy. And probably the next part I would just say from an executive thinking side of things is around the influence that they have on culture and the importance that executives and business leaders can really apply when it comes to making room in terms of prioritizing resources, business processes, again, valuing security and implementing it into the way things are done in the organization. And unless the executives can kind of pave way for that to happen, it's just not going to happen. So there has to be quite a big consideration and shift in how the approaches are applied in the organization and the way things are done in order for security to really be built into an organization's DNA and into the products and services that they then supply.
Yeah, I love that, Jasmine, and really quite key to the conversation, the role of the executive playing in culture. Tim, this question to you. Traditionally, the education sector and schools more specifically have promoted very open environments, but this increasing threat of social engineering means open behaviour, especially online, leads to exposure. What have you learned about creating sustained behaviour change from cybersecurity awareness and training programs, and what's important in these programs?
Yeah, go on. Thanks, Luke. Or just in terms of that openness, I think really the entire education sector is responsible for preparing people to best participate in the society that exists in the current day. So we can't pretend that schools are in a bubble. Our duty of care doesn't necessarily end when students leave the school gates. So if students are on social media, for example, then we need to be educating them about that at the appropriate age and stage of their life. But that said, all schools do, very seriously filter their internet connections. I'd hope they all have a high level of security infrastructure. But in terms of that, creating sustained behavior change from security awareness and training programs, I really think the key word there is sustained. I suppose the way humans learn and the way that human behavior changes, it's basically due to the culture that they are immersed in. So a great example of this is the routine cybersecurity phishing tests and cybersecurity training modules that staff at my school complete all the time. And so prior to this training rolling out, I actually never had any conversations with most staff about cyber issues. But also coinciding with the global spike in the kind of myriad of phishing attempts and threats like ransomware. But the day-to-day conversations I've had with staff have changed. So I now regularly, I get staff stop me in the corridor and they say, "Hey, Tim, I noticed that phishing test you sent earlier today." And my response often to that exact statement, which I get all the time, is, "I didn't send one." That was a real one, and great job recognizing it. And so that behavior, that didn't come about because we sent one phishing test one time a few years ago. It's because we have this regular and that sustained approach to cybersecurity awareness and training. And because it's been running for a number of years, our staff are more cybersecurity conscious. And so I think, really, to answer your question, it's that sustained repetition of information and exposure in small bite-sized chunks that I think is really important with those type of programs.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Tim. And, I'm fascinated by, the amount of phishing attempts that are happening at the moment. It just seems everly increasing. And Charlene, you're very passionate about empowering and enabling people as a crucial line of defense against cyber threats to an organization. How important is it for people to understand why they need to change their behavior?
Thanks, Luke, for the great question. So I believe that in order to raise awareness across an organization and to build sustainable behavior change, we really need to promote engagement. And one of the best ways to do that is to get people to understand their role in protecting the organization, but also themselves, because their personal data might be at stake. And we've realized that by giving people a better understanding of how cybersecurity applies to both their professional and personal lives, people are way more likely to engage in a cybersecurity program, but also to stay engaged, what's really important, and to spread the right message across an organization. So that's why I believe it's really important for people to understand why they need to change their behavior when it comes to cybersecurity, and why the way an awareness program is communicated is so important. And it also goes back to what Tim was saying about the importance of the culture you're being immersed in. So that's really the difference with an organization that's leading a successful awareness program and one that struggles to gain momentum. It's not about ticking a box, but really helping people understand how big of a role they play in protecting the organization and their data.
Engagement enables people to retain information and spend the time thinking about it, but it also enables that relationship with security. And we have found in various programs, if we've got a really good engagement program with people across the business, then if they do come across an issue, whether they've received an email that they're not sure about, or maybe they've sent something to someone and they're not sure if it was secure, then they don't feel afraid to call and ask and have a discussion around it, or they know there might be a better way of doing something. But by enabling that relationship and having that pathway means that we can find more secure solutions and more ways of doing things better. So I think sort of engagement in various forms is really important. And certainly we've all got limited brain capacity with various commitments at work and external life and COVID and all sorts of things. So we can only retain so much at a time. So that goes back to the point both Tim and Charlene said about constant little bits of reinforcement really just keeps it sort of front of mind, not overwhelming, but just keeps those key points there. So if something happens to come up, they're ready, someone's ready to respond to that.
Yeah, great. And Tim, what's really becoming clear here is the importance of that, cultural change, engagement, leadership. What's the role of executives and boards in all of this?
Yeah, those words have come up repeatedly in the conversation. Culture, leadership, those kind of things. I think really with any culture change or any organizational shift, if you don't have good leadership, you're not going to see a change. It is that simple. So it is the board and the executive team that really need to understand that there are very real risks in the sphere of cybersecurity, particularly today. And really with any good risk management approach, you just need to look at the risks and you need to attempt to mitigate them. So, that mitigation in this area, it's dollars spent in terms of appropriate infrastructure and backups and DR and, software to look at what's going on in your network. But it is also time spent on the behavioral change at that organizational level, as we've just spoken about earlier, I suppose. So what I can guarantee you, though, is that if you don't have strong leadership pushing the importance of cybersecurity awareness, then it is very unlikely that you will achieve success. You just need that, particularly as it's such a new thing for society. You need your leaders to step up and say, look, this is important to our organization, and therefore we're going to take these steps.
Yeah, and I guess the directorship changes that the governments are thinking about putting in place puts more onus on those leaders really taking key decision-making roles to protect their organisations and information. Charlene, what's your key message to executives as they strive to consider and enable the role of their people in protecting their organisation in digital environments?
Thanks for this other great question, Luke. So based on the various awareness program that Trusted Impact has worked on with organizations of different sizes, industries, and different needs, I would say that there are 5 pillars that will drive a successful awareness program. And I think that you will notice how it covers many key points that were addressed during this discussion. First of all, effective programs are led from the top. So as mentioned before, it's very important, if not crucial, for executives to be involved in spreading the right message. We believe that it really makes a difference between a successful program and a program that doesn't really lead to strong engagement and long-lasting behavior change. The second pillar would be behavior change needs reinforcement. The same message needs to be repeated consistently, and short training modules released on a monthly basis, I think would be more efficient than 30 minutes every 6 months with a module that tries to cover everything. The third pillar would be that around operant conditioning. So that consists in using positive reinforcement as well as remediation training when needed. The fourth pillar would be around measurement. So we cannot really improve what we can measure. And finally, there is no one size fits all. So there's different personalities that learn in different ways, and we need to cater for that by offering various training mediums such as quizzes, games, or even more formal types of training modules because some people enjoy that more. And also there's different roles in organizations, and those roles face distinct types and levels of threats. So we also need to cater for that. So if you don't know where to start with your awareness program, as an executive, I would say try to follow those 5 pillars and you will most likely drive a successful awareness program. And if you need help implementing or a program or running a program, once again, Trusted Impact is more than happy to help, but those 5 pillars are definitely a good start.
Charlene, thank you for those very practical steps that Trusted Impact would advise their clients. Tim and Jasmine, just one last question from me. How important is it for organisations to have a partner in this space, considering all of the different types of threats that now are in play?
I think all organisations work better when they're collaborating with a network. So the partnership could come up in different forms, but there's certainly great value in working with people who've got different sources of information, different experiences, different connections. Certainly cyber, you can't do it alone. The bad guys don't work alone. They're very well organized, and we have to be the same, and we're only going to be as good as we can be if we do work collaboratively with various partners.
Yeah, I love that. Tim, and your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just reiterate that and so, and particularly small to even medium-sized businesses can't think that they will be able to be experts on all areas that they need to be across. And cyber is a new one. It's evolving. And so, picking the right people to partner with is really going to be essential for you, boosting up your business, whatever it is, to being all that it can be.
Yeah, great. And I'd like to thank you all for being panelists on today's discussion. Jasmine, Tim, and Charlene, thank you very much. And I trust our audience has enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. We'll stay in touch and provide more information about this panel discussion with Trusted Impact on the Reboot Show, and look forward to seeing you on the next segment of this cybersecurity leadership series. Thank you.